Hey, good morning, everyone. I hope you're well. I'm feeling just a bit under the weather today, but wanted to continue on our book read for the month. For those that kind of know what's going on, go ahead and hop to 120 and we will dive in. For those that don't, I just want to say hello. My name is Nick Kleitch. I am the creator of the Life with Nick YouTube channel and the host of the Life with Nick podcast. Just as a quick overview for you, so I read and teach and discuss a personal development book a month. Some are fiction, some are nonfiction, but generally everything's going to be under that personal development umbrella. Got a handful over here if you can tell. And then also I do host a podcast where I just talk to everyday people and give voice to them. And if you want to go to my YouTube channel, go to my website, check that out. You'll get a much better idea of kind of what I'm all about and all that good stuff. So for those who are looking to move forward into the book read here. Oh, my bad. Also, if you're interested in a personal development book a month, hit subscribe so I can get in front of you and we can talk about some good shit. So anyway, for those who have been reading along, the book of the month this month is The Five Major Pieces to the Life Puzzle by Jim Rohn. We are covering today Attitude Part 4, and just as a light cliffhanger, this will be the last part in Attitude so we can get to the next piece in the story. So essentially what we have been talking about is personal philosophy and attitude and how the combination of those two things can be very influential in developing the direction of our lives, the set of the sail, as Jim has proposed the analogy. And today we're going to take a look finally outside of ourselves now that we have laid these 2 to 3 to 5 foundational blocks of these major life pieces. So today part 4 is labeled "We Cannot Succeed by Ourselves," which is a good prompt. So now that we've discussed the two major pieces of the life puzzle, we begin to readjust our focus outward. And continuing with the boat analogy, this essentially would be who is on our boat, because we cannot drive, power, and operate a boat all by ourselves. And these are folks that are helping us travel to our intended metaphorical destination. Everyone needs other people to help them achieve their dreams. In the business world, we need each other's markets and ideas, and in our personal world, we need each other's inspiration and cooperation. The attitude of other people affects us, and the attitude of each of us has the capacity to affect all. We become a powerful force when each of us understands how powerful all of us are, and when all of us understands how valuable each other is. Human beings, when placed together appropriately, can do anything we put our minds to. We can solve crime, we can develop vaccines for diseases, we can win a sports championship, we can build and operate a successful business, we can raise a powerful nation at kind of the highest level. We can do all this, or all we can do basically comes down to the alignment of all the great people that we have on our team. So the first pillar that we are going to discuss today is how we feel is influenced by our association. So one more time, how we feel is influenced by our association. So the people with whom we associate are a major source of what we know and how we feel. Below is a list of questions one should ask themselves on a quarterly basis to be sure we are generating enough self-awareness surrounding who we're spending our time with. So this is an exercise actually that I'm implementing today, so I'm throwing a little bit of curveballs at you. For those that have been reading along, pause this, take out a pen and paper, and these are going to be some questions that I'm going to ask of you. And the reason we're asking these questions is we're trying to generate self-awareness around who is even around us, and then knowing who's around us, we're then going to understand how that input is making us feel and how we operate on a daily basis. So you should do this every couple months just to make sure that you have an understanding of who's consistently in your life and who isn't, and then what that influence is if you're feeling really good or feeling really poorly. So the first one is, who am I around? Okay, who am I around? Who am I around daily? Who am I around weekly? Who am I around monthly, quarterly, annually? That would be the parameters in which I would encourage you to just jot that down. So, next one. Who do I have around me with a solid reputation in a respectable field? So this could be anything like energy, conservation management, hospitality, real estate, banking, accounting, recreation, just really anything, who has a respectable reputation in that field. And the reason I pose this is because it kind of goes into question number 2, which is who around me has accomplished good things? What can I learn from those accomplishments? So you're going to take those 2 questions from your circle and say, who is even in the circle? But then furthermore, who is either growing in their reputation or who already has one that I could potentially meet up with, network with, to extract good information on just the world, their particular field, what's good, what's bad, all that good stuff. Okay. Now this one is more of a general question, but a good one. Do the people around me that I spend the most time with, know the power and importance of attitude, goals, and personal development? So of your circle, again, who values or even knows the importance of having a good attitude, good goals, and personal development. Now, you could be showing them and leading them in their circle of you, but you're also looking for people who may have an inclination on this as well for you. And then with that, of the people around me daily and weekly, okay, not just monthly and quarterly, but very regularly, do they have strong ethics and do good works in the market and in the personal circles? So you're trying to identify, and there's generally a handful of people that come to mind that whether they're quote unquote crushing it or not, how do they go about their business? Are they ethical? Do they treat people well? Do they follow up with people accordingly? Do they talk poorly about people in passing? All of these things are something to be mindful of when interacting with people, because at the end of the day, we want to be around people with great attitudes, who have goals, who have personal development as a forefront, personal growth as a forefront, but also we want good ethics, good characters, good spiritual practices in their actions. Okay. Last question in this pool of questions: who am I mentoring and who is stretching my ideas and level of action? So anytime we go through life, we have people who we can duplicate and watch and learn from to speed us up. But if we turn that around, we also have people who are watching us, who are learning from us. So we need to identify those handful of people, so then that way we can obviously know that we have just a better general pool of people who we're spending more time with, and then we're all progressing in the same direction, is kind of the general sense here. So those are the questions that I'd ask you to take some time to contemplate, write down. And then here's the next layer of questioning in general. So what effect are they having? Question mark. Yes. So now this is more of a prompt for us to the next category, my bad. So we're talking about effect now that we've identified everything. So of the people whom we've identified, let's examine a few more questions. What direction are they prompting us to go? Are they encouraging you to go after things that you want to accomplish, or are they holding you back? What type of language do they influence us and use? Are they talking good about their spouse? Are they talking good about their friends, their colleagues, or are they talking poorly about these people? That language, that character, and that direction all kind of soak into us. So the more people we can position accordingly that are great people in this regard, the more success we're going to have. So again, what direction are they prompting us to go? What language are they using? And what ideas do they have that they're talking about? Are they talking always about the past? Are they talking about the future, where they're going? Do they have an energy to them? Are you attracted to this energy? All of this is just a phenomenal list of questions now that we have laid the groundwork on basically how are they moving, and are they moving forward, and are we moving forward with them? A couple other quick hitters here. What are they listening to and reading about? So are they into books? Are they into productive podcasts? Or are they just talking about gossip and shit that doesn't matter? What influences do they have on our personal growth? And are they helping us perform well at our job? So with all these questions, I have a little bit more here before we move on to pillar number 2. But I think the good news with this is that you're starting to gain some questions from me on how to self-analyze who is surrounding you, essentially. So it's easy to let the wrong people slip into our lives That is why we must take a close look and continue to look at those people whom we are interacting with. After doing this, we must tune out the voices of people who are not providing us some kind of benefit towards the future. This is a delicate practice, as we have people in our lives who, despite being good and well-intended people, don't aid us in growth. And also, they dampen our attitude. This is a hard pill to swallow. It was for me, and it's a continuous process, of course. However, if we make some adjustments to how often we see certain people and where we see these people, we can make noticeable progress. So what this is now kind of concluding on to pillar 1 is essentially saying who is in our people, who has expertise in certain fields, who is lifting us up, who is making us better, who is stretching us, or on the negative side of all of these things, who's always complaining, who's always needing something, who's dependent, all this other stuff that's not necessarily positive, who's doing drugs regularly, what have you. All we need to do first is obviously identify, but then we get to make these adjustments in time to how much time we're spending with these said people. Obviously, the more feel-good, beneficial, productive people, we want to give them more of a voice. And then for bad, we want to tune that out. And it's just saying in general, it's delicate because some of these people are good people. They just might not be they might not be the people we want on the boat moving forward at the end of the day. So we can still hang out with them with weekends and stuff like that. Just be mindful of it. But we want people on our boat moving forward in the direction in which we want to move forward. And then last but not least, we can talk a lot about other people, and that's fine. But my fun practice at the end here is turning to look inward. So now that we've held other people accountable, we need to hold ourselves accountable. Are we someone who is aiding in other people's journey? We don't have to take a major responsibility on that, but in general, are we providing them with value? Are we being helpful? Are we holding them to a higher standard? Are we putting forth good standards? And are we someone that they respect in their particular field? All really good things. So all the work that we use there and the time that you wrote all those people down to know who is in your circle, you need to be making sure that you are a person in someone else's circle in a positive light. And again, it doesn't mean you need to move mountains, but it does mean that you need to hold yourself accountable, which is good. Okay. So right before we get into the second pillar, we have just a little bit of peace here. Okay. Progress is often painful, but so is the consequences of allowing people to exercise undue influence upon us. Not only are we trying to protect our attitude in the short term and long term, we are also our future. There's a time and place for everything and everyone. But when it comes to our dreams, our goals, and our aspirations, we must carefully assess who is working with us. In order to protect our better future, we must have the courage to disassociate wherever necessary. The key is to learn to recognize the effect and to take the needed steps to minimize or eliminate the source. Now, why take this level of action towards our inner circle, right? Good question. Why take that level of action? Because the negative influences are too powerful and too threatening. Never underestimate the power of influence. Influence is so powerful because it has the capacity to change us. So this is a very good point here that Jim is bringing up, and he's saying that never take for granted who we are surrounding ourselves with, because it's very powerful, because it actually has the capacity to change us, and it could change us in the wrong direction, and that can be tough to reverse. Here's kind of the main thing. Like failure, influence is subtle. We would never allow someone to deliberately push us off course, yet if we're not mindful, some people may nudge us in a certain direction. A nudge here and a nudge there over a long enough time can bring us to a destination we did not choose, and or these nudges may be delaying, stalling, or working as an opposite force towards the direction we want to go. If we find ourselves asking, how did we get here, in kind of a negative connotation, it may be our own fault, or it may be the fault of someone who's slightly nudging us away from our goals. So again, the big kind of recap here, I've already recapped the first part, but the second part is that the world has terrible people, the world has bad people, neutral people, good, great, amazing people, and we are trying to first identify who in our circle are these people and like what do they stand for and all that good stuff. But then furthermore, we're trying to understand that we're going a certain way, and we want people that are associated with that certain way to be more presently in our lives as we're going forward. Because if we're not mindful of this, we could be working super, super hard, but at the end of the day, if some of our influences are stalling our trip, are putting opposite force to our trip, everything just takes 2 to 3 to 10 times more effort. In reverse, though, with the right people, you can just catapult yourself to where you want to go. So that was pillar 1. I'm going to grab a drink here just really quick. Thank you guys for hanging out on the book read. Hopefully you're enjoying it. Okay, now we're going to get into some strategies now that we've talked about the general concept of this video. So pillar 2, and this is the value of a limited association. One strategy to protecting our attitude is limiting our associations. We can't always avoid talking to relatives, friends, family for the rest of our lives, correct? Yet we can limit our time with them. And I know this sounds kind of negative, but I don't want it to come off this way. The reason I'm saying it is that whether they're friend, family, relative, or what have you, are they on the ship to where you want to go? So like if you're looking to get into a better healthy lifestyle, you can still obviously have a great relationship with them, but then when you're pursuing that specific output, they need to either be disassociated or associated because they're helping us move forward. So it's just kind of time and place for those things. So think of it this way. We have people who we can visit with for just a couple minutes, but not a couple hours. A couple hours, but not a whole day. A day, but not a handful of days. Then there's some people who we want to be with around weeks and months at a time, or maybe not. So it's just, again, that identification first, but then, okay, is that someone that provides me value? Do they have good character? All this other stuff. Okay, I want to spend more of my days, weeks, and months with these people, limited association, versus trying to be around everyone, in which some of those people are going to not affect accordingly or affect us negatively in that kind of pursuit. So there are people that we hang with for minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years, lifetime, all that good stuff. Really good filter to think, okay, is that a minute person? Is that an hour person? Is that a day person? Is that a week person? Or is that a lifetime partner? You know, these are really good filters to use if you've never done something like this, kind of contemplate that, which is really solid. And this is ongoing, of course. You'll always want to kind of revisit things, like I said, once a quarter. Another concept is to consider is the Pareto principle. So this principle states that roughly 80% of our results come from 20% of our specific effort. Said another way, 80% of the people we associate with account for 20% of the results we achieve. Conversely, 20% of the people we associate with lead to 80% of the results. With this, the 80% group of people will try to capture 80% of our time, whereas the 20% group will only capture 20% of our time. So before I move forward, if you want to pause and look up the Pareto principle, I believe it's spelled Pareto. That'll give you a little bit of understanding. There's also a wonderful book written about it. But essentially it says that of 100% of our output, there's 20% in a specific area that lead to 80% results, and an 80% that only lead to 20, meaning we need to identify what are the main key drivers that get the results that we're looking for. This is more so talking about your associations, and this would make sense, right? In a general sense, 80% of people probably are not going to be pursuing where you want to go, where you want to be, etc. So of that 80%, they're only going to give us a 20% output, right? And then if we reverse that, of the 100, 20% could be either have done or are going. They'll have 80% more result to us because they're pursuing a similar path. So the majority is going to be a majority and the minority is going to be the minority in this particular case here. So the challenge is very clear. We should discipline ourselves to spend 80% of our time with the 20%ers, because the more time with the few that are going is going to be far more productive than spending 80% of time with the 80%ers that are going to be retracting us, essentially. Now, it's simple in nature to do this and to say this, right? But it's not easy because, again, the 80% group is very good at gaining access to 80% of our time. So we need to look at that 80% of our time spent with that 20 to really blast off. So Those who seek fortune and happiness must become aware of how the 80% group operates. Most of them are great people, again, but they're caught up in the news, their own problems and goals, the how-to, the sports, just kind of life in general. They have not yet discovered that when human minds lock in on personal obsession and or for your goals, it does not need a book of instructions or training classes to take advantage of opportunity. So essentially what this is saying is that you can tell pretty deliberately who's on a very firm, good path and who is not, because the masses are not, the few are. So start to begin to look at that circle that we created earlier and see, of those people that had these good things about them, who's really got some gas on the frickin', or foot on the gas, going somewhere, doing some things. Those are the people that you want to associate with, not to steal their time, but to learn and to grow with them. And so that way, when it's saying the limited amount of associations, let's say you only have 2 to 3 people in your circle that are just freaking going, you want to be with them so you're catching the tailwind to them going versus trying to appeal to the majority of people who aren't maybe making this progress. So just to kind of conclude this pillar, I believe there might be a couple more. Oh, okay, there's a couple more things. We still have a little bit to go on the pillar. But so there are those, hold on just one sec. There are those who want to know so that they may, this is more philosophy from Jim, sorry about that. So there are those who want to know so that they might see. And there are those who see even though they don't know. Said another way, few people possess vision of where they're going and don't care about the how-to because they know they're going to get there, versus the many who are concerned with no vision and focus their attention on figuring out everything first and then acting. So that's a kind of a way to interpret or reinterpret everything that's being discussed today. All right, last thing before we get on to the second piece of the second pillar. We must not delay our commitment to finding our own personal gold mine in life simply because of the opinions of others who deem to be worthy and deserving friends, but whose impact on our attitude and self-confidence steal away too much of our spirit and dampen much of our desire. So again, this is just a nice way of saying we got to be committed to finding the right people to get on the boat versus lazily kind of spending time with people who are not wanting to get on the boat. All right, so in Pillar 2, this is the second piece. It's a very short one, but it is the opposite of what we just talked about, which is good. So instead of the value of limiting associations, we'll now talk about the value of expanding our associations. So in the same light, once we've become aware of those people who provide 80% aid in our results, we begin to work on the offensive side of the coin. Limiting is defense, right? We're playing defense to make sure that everyone can't get in. But once we have those people, we then want to strategize on expanding, which is offense. We must attempt to find the people who provide us value and us to them, hopefully. Even a small amount of time with the right people can make a great deal of difference. The people who educate us, encourage us, inspire us, and assist us in moving in the right direction. It is better to spend a little time with the right people than a lot of time with the wrong person. By strategically expanding who we allow new ideas, information, positive influence, etc., can lead us to a better life. So let's say you have 3 people in your group after today. We're going to keep those 3. We're going to nurture those 3 relationships. And then in 2024, we're going to look to add the 4th and the 5th. That's just a general kind of shooting from the hip example from Nick. Okay. Sources of new information and ideas that can have a dramatic impact on our attitude are within everyone's reach, right? Especially in today's world. Sources of new information and ideas can have a dramatic impact on our attitude, and they're within everyone's reach. The information that success requires can come from a variety of people and sources. The information is all around us if we just begin to search. Even if we can't access certain people directly, this is a big point, if we can't access them directly, we can access their content in their books. In today's world, nothing is out of reach. And I personally wrote that because I believe it is true. Even though I suck at research myself, It is a damn shame if you believe that you can't connect with people via YouTube, via Twitter, via social media, to find what they're putting out. Obviously, I have a lot of books purchased here. Buy the books, invest the time, do a little bit of reading, expand the mind. All this stuff has a positive impact on attitude. So on to pillar 3, our final pillar. Final pillar. Attitude is everything. Is how we're going to round out not only this video, but part 4 of attitude to get on to the next one. I'm excited. This has been a great process and a great journey. A little bit of a motivational speech, if you will, here. The process of human change begins with us. We all have tremendous potential. We all desire to do good results from our efforts. Most of us are willing to work hard and pay the price that success and happiness demand. The one thing that determines the level of our potential, produces the intensity of our activity, and predicts the quality of our results we receive is our attitude. Attitude determines the size and how much of the future we're able to see. It decides the size of our dreams and influences our whoa, holy cow. Sorry about that. Let me back up. My bad. Attitude determines how much of the future we are allowed to see. It decides the size of our dreams and influences our determination when faced with new challenges. No other person on earth has the domain over our attitude. People can affect our attitude by teaching us good or poor thinking habits or unintentionally misinforming us, but no one can control our attitude unless we voluntarily surrender that control. Same thing with our personal philosophy. If we care about ourselves at all, then we must accept full responsibility of our feelings. We must learn to guard against those feelings that have the capacity to lead to our attitude down the wrong or right path, and strengthening those feelings that lead us to a better future. We have now concluded the second major piece of the life puzzle. Stay tuned for the introduction to the third major piece, and that is activity. Thank you guys so much for listening, reading along. We will introduce in the next video, as we keep reading, the third pillar, which is activity. Thanks, guys.